people? Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, I'm joined by Myq Kaplan for a game of Zoetrope. Myq is a longtime stand-up comedian whose work has appeared on The Tonight Show, Conan, Letterman, James Corden, Seth Meyers, Comedy Central, Last Comic Standing, and America's Got Talent. He's also the host of the podcast Broccoli and Ice Cream and The Faucet. His newest special, Rini, which was developed in collaboration with his partner of nearly a decade, is available in full on YouTube. You can go watch that right now. You can find a link to that in the show notes, as well as links to everything else that I've mentioned and everything else that he's got going on. We sat down to celebrate our mutual love of comic books and superhero storytelling in a game of Zoetrope. Zoetrope is a collaborative world-building game about building a superhero universe. Players take turns building out the faces and places that make up a big, bustling superhero world and injecting the kind of larger-than-life events that make comic books such an exciting, wonderful space to play in. You can also find more information about Zoetrope in the show notes. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I'm very, very excited today. I'm sitting down with Myq Kaplan. Myq, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to today's game. I think it's going to be a blast. But before we get into that, why don't you take a moment, let our lovely listeners at home know about what you got going on you want them to know about.
Sure, thank you. I am a stand-up comedian, among other things. That is what I do for my living, for my life, art, passion, creative situation. And so I've been doing that for the past 20 plus years. And it is culminating, though hopefully not, for the rest of everything. I'll keep doing things. But for now, I made a special last year with my girlfriend, whose name is Rini. The special's name is also Rini. And so part of what I've got going on these days is telling everyone that they can watch it, and I'd love for them to do that, among also, doing whatever else you want to do and engaging with, I understand I'm not the only comedian or otherwise art entertainment option in the world, but, if you want to include me in your cache, I appreciate it. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on, talk about myself, and play and have fun.
Yeah, of course. I watched the trailer for Rini. It really tickled me. There's some really great. I get excited when there are great jokes in the trailer because I know that there's always the back of your mind of this is great and they put it in the trailer because it's great. But the energy in it, the structure of some of the jokes spoke to me so specifically and directly of being this mix of emotional and brainy and just really gut punch funny. And I was really, really excited to listen to the full special.
I really appreciate that. That's very kind and generous of you to say. And I'll share, just along the lines of what you said. And I like the combination of the emotional and brainy. And a thing that I just thought yesterday that probably would have been great to include in the press materials if I'd thought of it sooner. But, there's two of us in our relationship, Rini and me, and the two of us are who created this comedy special together. And, it's been said that two heads are better than one. And I thought yesterday, also two hearts are better. Or two hearts are, oneer than one in some ways as well. So thank you so much for, seeing it and being excited. And I'm excited for you to experience it in full as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited to sit down with it. It'll be out by the time this episode airs, so it'll be linked in the show notes. So you listening to this right now, you can either pause this episode and go listen to it, at which case, hi, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed it. Or you can go listen to it after this episode. Either one works for me because I've already got your download. But I'm really excited. Today we are sitting down. We're going to be playing a game today that I'm really excited about. I've wanted to play on the show for a long time, and I'm glad that we have got the opportunity to do it. We are playing a game called Zoetrope, and this is a superhero universe creation game. You and I right now today are going to sit down and create a superhero universe, like a comic book, big picture universe. And I want to ask you, as you sit down to play, the first question I have for you is what are you excited about? What's on your mind? What are you bringing to the table? Where's your head at as you sit down to play this game?
Sure. I appreciate it. I guess like of the options that you offered, like some games, and I understand, some games in general have, more rules and guidelines and specific, narratives and orders. And this is one that, if I understand correctly, is a little more freeform, not just A to B, but just more kind of purely creative in a way. And so that's something that, going back and forth, I was like, oh, sometimes constraints lead to greater creativity, but perhaps sometimes no constraints can also lead to different creativity as well. So I'm excited to just see, it's been a long time since I've played a role-playing game, a tabletop game of this type. So I'm excited to like relearn and reacclimate and discover new things about it and myself and creativity.
I'm so excited. I think the thing I'm excited about is, I as a guy with a background in superhero comic books, my college degree is in superhero comic books. This is the thing that the common thread that has carried me through my entire life. A thing that I love, and I think I love about this kind of like world building game is like really watching your views about the world and about people and about cities and about all of these things kind of take shape, like, and just sort of like pitching out ideas. This game in particular, this style of game, like, has a very light and fun kind of energy where really we're just throwing out vibes that we think are cool and things that we're like, oh, it would be neat to have this in the world, whether that is like a cosmic superhero or a Euro card on the corner. Like, there's something to me that is very captivating about just like two people pitching things that they would want to see like in a space and a setting, and watching that world become more and more real is an incredibly gratifying thing that I'm really like excited to lock in on.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I do not have a professional background in superhero comics, but I have a long time personal connection. There's some comics that I've been reading since I was, a child and still am. I now get like tons of graphic novels from the library. I just started reading Tom Taylor's Detective Comics run, and it's exciting to, I love being a part of a great story. I love reading it, and so it's exciting to get to be behind the creation as well.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, as I think the first thing that we really want to discuss is like scope, setting, tone, genre. Like, what are the books, like, when you think about those superhero comics, you think about those comics, like, what are the books, the universes, the stories, the vibes that you gravitate towards? Like, what is the playground? What is the kind of playground that you want to be playing in as we start to build this out?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, I've read a lot of different kinds of things, from non-superhero comics, which I'll just mention for that might not be the way. Let's create the world of Mouse, but yeah, or an Alison Bechdel universe. I mean, obviously, that could be a fun way to go. But I'd say superhero wise, I feel like it also kind of runs the gamut. Like, I feel like Spider-Man was probably my number one growing up, and to this day, like, I kind of read depending on who's writing these days. Mm-hmm. But Spider-Man lately has had a lot of great authors as well, and I feel like it's interesting because Spider-Man can also, I feel like, run from the very local and personal, relationship problems and just trying to deal with, the work-life balance, the superhero personal life balance in, New York City, trying to get to a date on time and also save people's lives. But then, also I feel like runs towards the cosmic. Spider-Man has had cosmic powers and alien costume and, traveled the universe as well. But I recently read, a lot of the Krakoa, the X-Men.
Sure. Yeah.
Just collection. It's really impressive, the expanse of, like, I feel like I haven't even done it all yet, but there's so many titles, and just around this, in some ways, like, literal world building or world curating, which seems I guess now that I'm saying it, I mean, it's so impressive, and I imagine took so many creators and time and ideas that, like, maybe let's start on the more local side of things, perhaps, a city or a neighborhood as opposed to a dimension or a galaxy.
This speaks to the I think that energy really matches the comics that I've been reading or that I've been rereading and thinking about lately. I mean, beyond, like, I've all my I think the moral figure that has guided me in most of my life is Superman, and I cannot overstate the importance of that enough. But, like, there is an energy to Superman that I think, like, I've been thinking a lot about. I think it comes into play in the recent movie and, like, a lot of the Superman stories of Superman was a guy that was beating up corrupt landlords and, like, holding, like, beardy politicians out of windows. And then eventually, like, alien robot gods, like, knocked on his door. And, like, that to me feels very, like, real. And I think, like, that's an energy that I kind of want to lean into if we are kind of picking, like, going, like, let's make a city, let's make a world, and then see what weird stuff we want to inject into it. It also speaks to me, like, I've been rereading the John Rogers, Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle run from, like, the mid-2000s. One of the greatest runs that I've ever read in my life, of just, and the energy of, this is a guy and his family with a pretty normal and well-adjusted life, and weird shit keeps happening, but every time it does, he kind of just goes like, yeah, I don't know, I mainly just want to be a dentist. And, like, there's something so magical about the energy of not letting the weirdness of the world change the normality of your existence that is very compelling to me.
That's beautifully put. I love that. It's very poetic. And I'm also, I recently started reading the Absolute DC series.
Yeah.
Like, the Wonder Woman one is fantastic, beautiful. I mean, they're all, I read the Batman one. I read the first volume of the Absolute Superman. I love Jason Aaron. And it's really interesting to see, in that, like, a young Superman going after, I feel like, corrupt workplace environments. And it's a cool thing that, did you read the Tom King Superman Up and Away, I think it was called?
I have not, actually. Is it worth picking up?
I love it. I mean, I think Tom King is a fantastic writer, and it's a really beautiful story that, without giving away too much, basically Superman is basically traveling across the universe, I think essentially to save one person. And it sort of raises the questions of, like, with all that Superman, can do powers wise, like, what is the best use of his time? And kind of the question, is it worth trying to save one person when you could be saving, the world? And, I feel like the comic offers a very satisfying look at that sort of meditation. And then Batman, I feel like, is another guy who, it's so interesting, like, in his comics, he's, like, dealing with street crime sometimes and trying to clean up his city, and it seems like a very big priority to him. And then also he's part of the Justice League, and dealing with, sometimes he's getting punched by Darkseid, across the universe, which is, I'm like, man, where does this guy find the time? But he must have a good sleep schedule. But I also read Jason Aaron's, like, Batman Offworld, where it's so interesting, there's kind of, ultimately, like, there's no wrong answer. Like, what is the scope? Like, who do you try to help? And it's kind of, whoever's in front of you right now. And I guess one other, influence in my own sort of sci-fi fantasy upbringing is, did you watch, like, Buffy and Angel? Anything?
Oh, sure.
Like, in season 2 of Angel, I believe that's when Angel, who had been previously just trying to help the helpless, as a vampire detective, and, people just, little, kind of like the equivalent of Batman, just one street crime at a time. But eventually he's like, hey, maybe if I get the evil and take it down from its source, go to the evil home dimension, maybe then it'll all trickle down and I won't even have to save everybody individually because all the big evil will go away. And then, sorry to spoil for any listeners who haven't watched, feel free to pause, watch the first 2 seasons of Angel. You'll probably want to watch several seasons of Buffy in advance as well to get the context. So welcome back several weeks later.
I was about to say, I love that this podcast episode has turned into a 3-week long initiative.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for watching my special that you don't need any additional context for. You can go back and go through my whole oeuvre, all my magnum opus, and but in that season, just I feel like this won't reveal too much, but ultimately. He realizes that there is no one root of all evil to take down, and he comes back and has this epiphany that he's like, ultimately, because you can't stop all of the evil, he says, if nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do. So I feel like that is like a nice place to start, to be like, well, what can we do? We can't do everything in the creation of this world. I mean, we can do everything that we can, but we can start with one thing.
Great. I think this is great. I think this is a good energy to like kick off with. I think zeroing in on like a city feels good. I'll throw this to you also, like as we kind of lock in on that. You know, is there a city vibe that speaks to you? Is the city in your head more of a New York? Is it more of a smaller city? Like what's the first kind of visual reference point that pops into your head? So then we'll kind of start to like flesh out scenes and pitch in ideas.
Sure. Well, I live in New York, and it's certainly very familiar to me, though I feel like New York is a fairly common, lot of stories take place there. So one of my favorite cities, I would say, is Portland, Oregon, or so that I would say that might be a good reference point.
That's a really fun one to play. That there's something really fun about. I'm throwing in world building details already because I'm thinking about keep Portland weird, and I'm thinking about like the weirdness of Portland as a city that like what I maybe want to pitch to you and tell me what you think about this immediately is like. Portland as a city in which the weirdness of superheroes have already started to settle in, and it's just kind of an accepted thing.
Totally.
Feels very fun to me. Like that feels like a very fun energy of, yeah, there's a guy flying on the corner. I'm not surprised by this. That's just Roger.
Yeah, I love it. Like kind of the same vibe of like, yep, that guy is just juggling on a unicycle down the street on the way to his job as a lawyer in Portland. So yeah, why wouldn't somebody be, bending spoons with their mind, across the street or leaping, they don't even have the tallest building, so you don't even have to leap that high. But yeah, there they go.
That's great. That hits. Okay, great. I feel like I've immediately got visuals and vibes for this city. So, basically what's going to happen now is we're going to start like fleshing things out. The way this will work, we will create an anchor. This is the place the story focuses on. This is our city. And once we've created that, we will start to pitch things that exist within that city. You and I will go back and forth 2 or 3 times. This game is designed to be played with any number of players. So you traditionally go around the table once, but we'll go back and forth until we feel like we've got enough pieces on the board that we can really start zooming in and looking at things. So with that said, and we'll create more elements as we go. We'll flesh out more details as we bounce around. But for now, we're just sort of putting things on the board. Are there character archetypes that you want to have on the board immediately? Are there sort of like iconic locations that you're envisioning, institutions immediately? So yeah, I think what kinds of things are on your mind as we kind of like sit down to flesh out some of the initial play things that we're going to put on the playground?
Sure. Well, I think perhaps one of the institutions of the real Portland from our world and dimension is the Powell's bookstore, one of the largest. So it doesn't have to be Powell's exactly, but it could be, Biff Bam Powell's, perhaps.
Biff Bam Powell's is really funny
in the superhero verse. So yeah, a city of books that's like just one huge block. Perhaps the building. Maybe it could be I don't know how weirdness is going to work in the town, but could be even bigger on the inside. Maybe it could be just a small building on the outside, bigger on the inside, just, like kind of Borgese's like library that has infinite rooms. So perhaps that could be like a center of operations for, who knows, perhaps, I don't know, some heroes, some people, but just that's what I'm thinking to start with.
That feels great. I really love that. The thing that I want to throw in is I'm going to throw big immediately, and we'll unpack what this means and what this looks like. The big pitch that I want to throw in. I was a big there was a chapter of my life. There were several months of my life that were consumed by a video game called City of Heroes, circa 2007. And the thing about City of Heroes is it was a superhero MMORPG, and when you booted up the game, there was like a giant statue of a superhero immediately. Like that was the first thing that you saw. And the idea of putting in like a big superhero statue always hits, but I think that the vibe I want to throw in is like, this is a statue of the Superman analog that was in this city that is no longer around, whether they are retired or dead or missing. But there is a giant statue in town, in like the city like square, or like right dead set in downtown, of a Superman analog that is no longer around.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds great. I mean, perhaps over the course of this time, we'll determine what version of missing, be it dead or retired, this person is. But certainly, let's say most of the people in the town don't know.
Oh, that's good. I like that. I think that's great.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, perhaps, at some point people will find out or discover, but it kind of evokes the I think is it Alan Moore's story, or was it Neil Gaiman? I forget who, like, whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Oh, sure, that's Alan Moore. That's one of the all-time greats.
Where if I remember correctly, it seems like Superman dies, but ultimately he just ends up a dude. So, could be that, could be, across the galaxy doing some other things. I love the idea that he was the super dude of this town, and people love him enough to put a statue, and perhaps there are some people who are like anti as well, that are like, as often happens, I feel like, with society, it makes sense that I've heard this thing, better to not have a statue and have people ask why not, than to have a statue and have people ask why.
That's great.
So you memorialize anything, set anything in stone, literally, and eventually, people will be like, but didn't George Washington and Thomas Jefferson owned slaves? And, so who knows what version of that will be for this super guy. But, I'd say most people are pro.
That feels good. That feels great. What other locations, people, places, things do you want on the table immediately?
Sure. When I think Portland, I think coffee shops. So I feel like, and I feel like that's also like a classic. Like I watched all of the Flash show, and so I love that the coffee shop was sort of like a character, and like the coffees that they sold were like, named for, I feel like the coffee shop was called Jitters, which is a great name for a coffee shop.
It's a great name for a coffee shop.
So I wonder what ours can be in our weird Portland coffee town that has accepted the superhero motif that pervades, and so maybe it'll come to us, but for now,
I've got a pitch immediately.
Please.
I want to throw in capes and shakes, and it's like the icon is like a superhero that's got a cup of coffee with the little like jitter lines on the side because the caffeine is kind of making them shake.
Oh yeah, capes and shakes. I'll throw this as an alt possibility. Maybe this is too inside our own universe, and Capes and Shakes is perfect, but Cape Shack.
Cape Shack is great.
So either maybe they're maybe they're two competing ones that like one of them Capes and Shakes opened up and somebody's like there's a market for these here. Maybe there's all throughout the town different variations of coffee shops that are almost all identically named. Like when I lived in Boston, there was this frozen yogurt store, and my understanding is that it was owned initially by husband and wife, and then they divorced, and so they each have their own yogurt store now, and it's like the exact same kind of like you have Smushins, and you can put other things in the frozen yogurt, and one of them's called Ankara, and one of them's called Angora, and so I feel like that could happen I'm like, it could happen in real life. It could happen in our town. So there's
it can happen to you.
So Capes and Shakes, Cape Shack, Cape Town Shakes,
Yep. This is great.
Shaketown Capes.
That's great. Also, you saying that just now, I really do think we haven't named the town, and I don't know what the formal name of the town is, but Cape Town is a really good nickname for a town in which a bunch of superheroes is convalesced, and I'm putting that on the table immediately.
Definitely. I mean, certainly as a nickname, and it's so interesting. One time I was hanging out with a friend, and we were on mushrooms, but I don't think that is urgent to the story, but it does inform it contextually. And we were in the park, and there was a guy with a dog, and the guy got up and then said to the dog, "Come on, lazy bones." And then my friend turned to me and said, "Do you think that dog's really named Lazy Bones?" And I was like, what is it to really be named something? And it's like, oh, obviously, like, is Lazy Bones on the dog's birth certificate? Is that even how things work? So in this magical, mystical miracle of a town that we're creating, like, is it really called Cape Town? But yes, I mean, it is for our purposes so far, so Cape Town.
Well, and I think what really what hits me about that is it's like what pops into my head hearing all of that and thinking about that big question is like for as many, I will make jokes about the phrase brotherly love, but like if somebody were to say to me like, "Oh, you're from the city of brotherly love," like it would take me probably a quick half of a second. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it would take me a second to process what they meant by what they like. That the funny thing about like city nicknames is that they get used a lot, and then also like when you're in the city, like it is the last thing you would ever being like, "Oh yeah, this is where I live, the city of lights. This is like there's an energy to that is uniquely like not used by the locals."
Oh yeah, I mean, like I live in New York, and people come and visit. Surely there are people who don't live here who have visited the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty way more often than I have. I'm like, I mean, I go to LA sometimes, and I see I was there a couple weeks ago, and I saw so many friends that live there because I'm like, it's very important to see all my friends when I'm here because I'm only here like once a year or maybe twice or maybe not even. And then in New York City, where I live, there's so many friends that I have that I don't see all the time at all.
That's real.
Like, I'll get to you. So same kind of deal with the town nickname. It's like the way that we don't use our own name, or even like the names of the people that are closest to us. We're just like, we have a relationship where you're closer than a name even is required. Mm-hmm. So be like, oh yeah, of course, my city does never sleep. I guess that's right. That's a funny point. I also like, how about this as an idea? Like Cape Town, a perfect name for a town full of caped people. But also, what if there's at least one character who rails against the inefficiency of the cape? He's like, it's like, yeah, I'm a hero, but like I tried using a cape, and some villain grabs it right off the bat, so it's actually trying to like change the name, change the vibe, change the stereotype, but everybody's like, it's Cape Town.
That's Cape Town. Yeah. I like that a lot. That's a good energy. The other thing that thinking about, you mentioned the Flash, and the Flash does a thing that is the most Jeff's bullshit imaginable, And also, if we've got a city block-sized bookstore that is contained into a single storefront, like I want to put like a shadowy research firm or like a think tank. I'm just gonna write down the think tank for now. Argus or Star Labs being just a weird thing that's on the outskirts of town, and also maybe includes an extra dimensional prison that's never really dug into.
Sure.
Like that type of vibe is my extreme jam. And so like there is gotta be, like, if there's this much weird science and magic and godly shit happening in this town, like there's got to be like an organization that is maybe not even like acting on it, but just like collecting things, and we'll see if they are up to nefarious ends or heroic ends or where all of that goes.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. And you've also now inspired this thought that, watching, superhero stories in movies, TV shows, reading them in the comics. I really like that these days, like there's a lot more nuance going into, it's not simply like good guy fights bad guy. There's like flawed heroes and villains that over the course of time, perhaps repent and atone and have more. Like there's this one episode of The Flash that I remember, and when I watched The Flash, I started watching it like on an airplane, and I'm like, I'm allowed to watch The Flash on an airplane. It's totally fine. It's doesn't count as real time here. This is, of course, it's not the highest art. I mean, look, I love all art, and I'm excited that it exists, but also it's the kind of thing that I could watch it while I'm
kind of engineered in a lab for that you're on an airplane.
Yeah, and I'll do it like while I'm washing the dishes at home sometimes, or brushing my teeth. It's like a fun thing to do along with something else. And there was this one episode where I think it was when they introduced Ralph Dibny. And his character was initially like, I think he'd been a corrupt cop, and he got kicked off the force and was now like a private investigator or something. And initially Barry, the Flash, was like, that guy can't repent. That guy can't like ever become better. He was bad. He broke the rules. He broke the law. And that's where Flash was coming from at the beginning. And I'm watching this and I'm like, hey, that's not the way to do that. Like, of course, can't you be open to people learning and growing and changing? You fool, you dummy, you And then by the end of the episode, of course, the story arc was that Flash changed his mind because he saw that the guy was repenting and was trying to do better. And I'm like, oh man, I was like the dumb Flash at the beginning of it. I'm like, stupid show. Come on. Can't you be better than the show that, oh, you are? You're doing the thing exactly that I want you to do? Oh, I'm a fool. So when you mentioned, secret, perhaps shadowy prison, I want to introduce into the idea, into the world, because we live, I feel like our prison industrial complex in our country, in the States is, an unfortunate, problematic, modern day equivalent to slavery that I would love a more utopian slant on. So perhaps, in addition to, of course, there are reasons if people are, as close to unrepentantly evil as they might get, which I feel like, of course, in a limited life, in this one incarnation, everyone doesn't necessarily get to divinely enlightened Buddhahood in one go. But, I just want to offer, maybe there can be more of an emphasis on rehabilitation and halfway houses for supervillains to, refocus and recalibrate their lives. Like, did you watch the TV show This Fool?
No.
It's a really fun show, and just basically there's an element of it where there's essentially like a bakery or some kind of donut shop that's basically, run by like a halfway house, like, former gang members are, turning their life around and selling baked goods. So I feel like some element, some aspect of that in our city where the heroes aren't just like, we lock you up and throw away the key. They're like, okay, we web you up, and here the police then can be like, all right, like they web you up and put you outside, social services.
Sure. I love that. And it gets at two things too, like comic, like it touches on, it gives it the words. It opens up a gateway to two comic book related things that are the same thing, but in very different ways. This is a conversation I was having with my friends yesterday or the day before. A thing in specifically Batman and Flash comics that I will pop hard for every time is that like for whatever reason, Batman rogues and Flash rogues always feel like they are one story or one issue away from a face turn. And whenever like that happens, whenever one of those characters goes good for a while, like it's my jam. And it's really fascinating that like for Batman rogues, it's always that like these characters are like pushed into this place of desperation, and when Batman can just give them the slightest hand up, they immediately like, yeah, I'm not there was a great run. I think it's James Tynion, I think, is the one that made Clayface a good guy for a while, because he was just like, yeah, I was in a bad place, but I'm okay now. Like, I'm cool hanging out if you guys need like a friend. And then with the Flash, it's just that like the Flash rogues are all just kind of a guy with a gun with a freeze ray that's like, I guess the only thing to do is rob a bank. But then you get the idea of like, I don't want to kill anybody though. Hold the fucking phone. And so like opening up that idea, I think, is very fun, of like seeing people who were at one point like do like what we would call costumed villains being like, yeah, that was a point in my life. I've found a different way to live, and I'm in a better place now.
Like, yeah, these people, if you have the question, like, who hurt you? Like, there's an answer. Like, oh yeah, it was this childhood trauma, or, I got turned into living clay and it was difficult to deal with for a while. But yeah, thanks for helping me find some purpose. I'll also throw in, have you read Ryan North's Unbeatable Squirrel Girl?
Oh, sure.
Like, I just read it pretty recently, and I love that guy. I love that the character, her catchphrases, I'm here to, kick butts and eat nuts, but also like every chance she gets, she's like, can we talk about this instead of fighting? Because like, I just love the way that he deconstructs, the previous comic tropes, like of people being named ridiculously or always getting into unnecessary fights when heroes have misunderstandings, like a sitcom or something. So I feel like that is a nice energy as well, that, the heroes actually want to try to, address root causes as opposed to symptoms.
That feels great. This is good. I'm so glad that we're digging into this. I think I've got enough. Is there anything else that you're like, any other people, places, things you really want, or do you want to dive in and kind of take some closer looks at things?
I'm happy to dive in.
All right, great. So for each of our subsequent rounds, here's how it's going to go. We're going to choose, one of us will be the lens of the round, which means that we will be the person kind of zooming in on a different aspect of our city. So you'll choose a focus, something you want to explore in detail, what religion looks like in the city, how labeled villains see themselves, an event to the aftermath of the Battle of Paragon City, or a specific character in their life, or a type of characters. Like, you're zooming in on like, I want to learn more about X, and then we will go back and forth 2 or 3 times and like add in details that give us a closer look at that element. And once we've gotten that closer look, then we kick things off with an event that kind of that zooms back out and like changes the city in a fun, like a big thing happens in the city and we kind of see how stuff reacts to it.
Great.
Do you have a focus thing that you want to zoom in on?
Sure. How about, could it be like a specific character that
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like when I was growing up reading, like Superman was, compared to almost everyone, like almost no weakness,
Sure.
But of course there's kryptonite, there's magic, there's, the fact that everyone that he knows will die before him probably. And and I remember as a kid wanting to just, I want everything to be good, you know? Why can't why can't it just all be, everyone's favorite way? It's like, oh, because life, like in the Matrix, when the robots are like, we tried to give you a utopian mental experience, but your brains rejected it because that's not, it was like too perfect. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm a human and I'm, flawed. So I'm sure whatever I come up with will also have some kind of crack in the old armor. But I'm thinking of, let's see, how about a teenager who is inspired by, the missing Superman character, who in this world, let's say magic is real in a way that is quantifiable, and you can, let's say, study it. And so this guy is kind of maybe like, books of magic-y, like just learning about magic. Maybe in this world there are Superman comics, so he's like, I'm as well. So there's their Superman analog. They have access to, all the stories that we have access to as well. And he's like, so I feel like magic is the way. And let's see, his name. My name is Myq, so his name is Myq. And let's see, it's not Myq Magic. That's a little too on the nose, but Myq Mannheim. Just a young Myq Mannheim, a young guy who's wants to help out, inspired by, he's like, sees a void, the gap left by the super character being missing in whatever way. This kid believes that he's still alive somewhere and is, trying to learn magic, perhaps to discover the way to bring him back, to, find out where he is, if he's imprisoned, if he's hiding, if he's, across the universe. Like, magic is the way to help. So that's what he's trying to learn and perfect. And in the meantime, every once in a while, the Freak of the Week episode, if the magic skills can help stop some harm from happening, so be it.
I love this. So yeah, now we're going to go back and forth and we're going to add details to this, additional events to color in some of Myq's story and sort of additional beats and details, and see the world through this lens for a little bit before a big event happens. And immediately the thing that I want to throw in, because you gestured towards it, and I think it's fascinating. It puts a fascinating timestamp on it, is if part of Myq's motivation here is I'm getting into this, I'm learning magic, it's a thing that I can learn and develop, and a skill that I can grow, while this mega hero is missing. I think that the picture that I want to paint, the thing I want to do on my turn, is really zoom in on that moment, right? And zoom in on this idea that it's just kind of color what's in the air as Myq is studying these texts and developing these skills, which is an air of speculation, right? It is an air of an important political, social, moral figure in our community has not been seen in 3 weeks. It is a significant. It is just a significant enough time where people are really starting to ask the big questions, and we kind of see Myq heading to Biff Bam Powell's bookstore to pick up a tome, and we see TVs playing in storefronts that are it's been 24 days. We are approaching day 24 of the absence, and there's a fear in the air, I think. If most people are in favor of this hero, right? There is a fear and an uncertainty, and it is, I think, it is not a panic necessarily, right? It is not necessarily I think the air, the feeling that I'm putting in the air is not one of panic, it is not one of crisis, but it is long enough that there's certainly a nervousness. I think everything feels a little bit still. Everything feels a little bit anxious, and it constantly feels like the other shoe is about to drop.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of evokes to me like what if the internet suddenly stopped working?
Right.
And people are like, well, what are we going to do? I guess what we did before, but now it's not like before, because before we didn't even know that the internet was possible, and now we do know it was possible, and it was actual, and it was here. Or like, even if like there's a blackout and the power goes out, literally the power is out, the power is missing, and we're like, is it gonna? Probably going to come back, right? It's always come back before, but this is longer than it's ever been. And yeah, absolutely. Like some sort of palpable concern.
And also, it is superhero comics are not an art form for subtlety, and so this is going to be an on the nose pitch, but I'm pitching it anyway, and I feel like it speaks to me. The Power, great name for a big missing mega hero.
Yeah, that's incredible. I can't believe that isn't one that, I mean, who knows? It's so interesting. Like all the names are taken. I mean, it's nice that they started with Superman and this man and that man and woman, but then eventually, man, there have been so many. The Power, yeah, the power is out. Reads the local Cape Town Gazette.
That's a headline. That's a headline we see on like a newspaper for sure.
Yeah, there's like at a factory where they usually have a thing like, however many days without an accident, however many days without the power, like you were saying. That's great. And they're like, yeah, he's gone away for different numbers of days before, but this is, like the heat paradox is strong.
Typically, I think, building on that, like, typically we know, you know what I mean? Like, typically, if the power is going to another dimension to fight a battle or something, like, it is signaled in some way. Like, there's either a press conference or like an announcement, or one of the power's peers will be like, oh, yep, nope, there was a crisis in another dimension. Like, but like, I think the other detail before I throw it to you to see what else you want to see about Myq's like journey or the magical world that kind of is on the fringes of Cape Town is like, I think there's a marked silence. I think there's a silence that speaks volumes from other like super powered individuals in the power's wake. Is like, no one is saying anything. It's that feeling of, it is the more stressful and less funny version of, there was like a 2-week period before it was announced that the Queen of England had passed. When everybody around was just like dead silent about it, and there was just like a continuous whisper of like, so she's dead, right? We all kind of are picking up on the clues, and it's just like that radio silence is just like that silence has gotten very loud.
Yeah, like if there was, let's say there's an equivalent of the Justice League in this town, like everyone else on it, ordinarily, like you're saying, like there would be like a press secretary that was like, everything's fine, don't worry, we haven't seen the power in a while, but it's because of this. But now journalists are asking questions, and they're like, we haven't seen the power in several weeks, and they're like, well, yes, I can't comment on that now, but you always would comment in the past. But yeah, we have other things to talk about now. And they're like, okay, this does seem to be
that's
I'm
great.
Concerned.
That feels really good. That's a great energy. What else? What other elements do you want to zoom in on?
Sure. I think the actual, like, the mechanisms of magic by which, Myq is learning and studying, from my own experience in like doing stand-up comedy. I feel like the way to do it is just to start doing it, and you don't know what you're doing. But, these days you can listen to podcasts, you can read interviews, you can, study the greats, you can go to shows, you can, look through your own life for like evidence of like, oh, I can use this. And I've been doing comedy since 2002. And when I look back at the whenever you start, I feel like anything, you're kind of like a baby at it, you're a child at it, you're like, I feel like Seinfeld has said things like the number of years that you've been doing comedy is like equates to the age that you are as a human being of doing that thing. So I've been doing comedy 23 years now. Like, finally I'm an adult of comedy. And so perhaps in this realm, in this world, magic is similar. You can learn everything that you can about it, but there is no substitute for, the time that you are actually putting in of doing it, of practicing. So this kid, let's say even he started like loving magic when he was young. Let's say the power saved him or saved his family, saved somebody like close to him. In a way, like, ooh, maybe it's like sort of a reverse or like a, turning on the head of the like Uncle Ben, dying so that that inspires, Peter Parker to become a hero. But in this realm, Mike Mannheim's Uncle Ben equivalent was almost killed, but the power stepped in and saved, and that is what inspired Mike to like love magic, and so started sort of like dabbling in it and learning about it and becoming kind of into be like, oh, I wonder if I could learn, how to do this. And so kind of as a hobbyist initially from a very young age. So now as a teenager, he's put like 10 years in. So he's, like a 15-year-old who's a 10-year-old at magic using. And so, he's got some skills, but that is the way of learning the magic is by, reading everything and then trying to start applying it. And so his skills are, congealing.
I love this. I love this a lot. Also, you saying the phrase like you can listen to podcasts to understand comedy really put the cursed idea in my head, and it is now fully formed. The Spells Cast is a podcast for wizards. It is impossible to subscribe to it naturally. It can only find you. You can't find it. Once you've studied magic, and you've spoken to someone else that is like a subscriber, the episodes just start appearing on your phone. And if you don't listen to them when you're awake, you will listen to them in a dream.
That's incredible. I love the name of it and the concept. That's perfect. Like, especially because then I feel like it has like an element of, Thor's hammer, like, and the worthiness involved in picking it up. Like, it's not something that you can, Nepo baby into. It's not something you can be like, do you know who my father is? I should be listening to this podcast. And like, you can't listen, like, I guess I wonder what would happen, how the mechanism will work. Like, maybe it only appears to you like at a time when only other people around. Like, you can't blast it through your boombox.
Sure. If you play it on your phone, like, you or only other like selected subscribers can hear it. So like, you can have the boombox in hand. To everyone else, it will sound like you are just blasting radio static, like you haven't found a radio, like an FM station.
Yeah.
But then there's a really great, in fact, making this explicit in canon, like there is a moment where Myq is listening to this on his phone, which has introduced the detail that Myq listens to audio on public transit without headphones, which is to say that I now unfortunately hate this character and I wish him ill. But like, he's listening to this, or he's playing this audio trying to understand it, and like everybody is just kind of like eyeing his phone like it's playing static, except like one person on the opposite side of the train car like looks up and like locks in, and like the Myq and this other person we'll call her Shay. Shay, like Myq and Shay like have this distinct moment where they both like she looks up and like locks eyes, and they both have this moment of like, oh, you're hearing what I'm hearing. Everybody else is sort of just hearing static, but like there's that distinct feeling of like, oh, you subscribe. Oh.
Yeah, that's perfect. It kind of reminds me of, and I don't know if this is going to add anything, but the from Battlestar Galactica, the
Sure, I know exactly. Yep.
Yeah, where
100%.
they're the characters that are hearing music that nobody else is hearing, and then it leads them to each other. And so this is a way that, for these types of characters, for people who are, when game recognized game, you discover, who you are and who your people are.
And I think that's the perfect segue into the second phase of our turn, which is an event, because I feel like this is an event. Like here, let me read the specifics of it. So now, like we will pitch an event. We will pitch a big thing that happens. This is your Civil War, your Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is a thing that occurs that is like a citywide focus. Like what about like what is the, because I think like what I maybe want to pitch is like we have this moment of they both kind of look up, and there is like an episode that drops of the spells cast that is like, hey, if you're hearing this, get outside and find somebody else immediately, because, or like get to this location immediately because something is occurring.
Yes. That's great. Yeah. But what is it that's occurring is what we will now.
Yes. What do you do you want to see like a disaster occur? Do you want to see like a naturally occurring magical event? Like what's the let me ask you, like what do you feel like is the thing that is bringing together like magic users throughout the city?
Yeah, I guess it makes sense for it to be some sort of, magic, a magic problem that requires a magic solution. So some kind of, imbalance, like maybe like somehow maybe there is some way that some nefarious, being has figured out, or maybe it isn't even a person, maybe, an entity, a thing, something that makes it so everything that was working isn't working. And man, it's I'm really impressed that comic book writers, I'm sure they don't have to do it all on the spot, but it's, man, stories are great. Yeah, how about
immediately what floats to me, I like the idea that it is like immediately terror in reality pops into my head. Like immediately like a rip has occurred in sort of the magical ether of the world in a way that like is inexplicable, like, because I think that there's something compelling to the idea that like this is it could be caused by someone's action, but like to a certain extent, like this is a fire has broken out and we need all of the firefighters in the neighborhood to go put it out. Like that is an energy that I think is compelling. How do you feel about that?
I love it. Yeah, I think that's great.
And so like there is a hole in reality that is plugged up, and like there is this energy that has like erupted, and people have to come. I guess what I want to throw to you is to say like to wrap up, or to put a capstone on this event, to pivot to a different lens, like what's Myq's perspective of this? Like, does he play a role in it? Like, is this overwhelming? Does this push him away from magic? Does he find a community? Like, what happens to Myq in the course of like this portal has opened that is threatening to destroy the city unless action is taken?
Yeah, I think that ultimately it will help him discover community. Perhaps initially it is overwhelming, but and maybe he doesn't even know that there are other people like him. He knows that he's got access to the podcast until he meets Shay, and and it's interesting. I'm now bringing in an element maybe of I just read Susanna Clark's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Do you know that book?
Sure.
Where in it, a lot of people, like, magic is known, but mostly people only like read about it and study it, but don't practice it. And it's more complex to become a practical magician than it is a theoretical magician. And so in this world, like, that we're creating, like, perhaps a similar vibe that, while it is known and it is possible, it is a difficult process, and certain people might have more of an aptitude to it. And so perhaps initially Myq is concerned, scared that his own abilities are not yet at the level that they would need to be to contend with such a disaster. Like, it's like above his pay grade, and but maybe not above his Shay grade. And so he gathered eventually, I think, and maybe ultimately the cause of this rift is the power's absence. Like, maybe the power is an avatar of magic, and that's where
great. Oh, that's great.
So the fact that they are missing, the power is missing from this, from the realm, is a thing that has led to the tear.
That's great. I think, and I that's great. And I think, like, it, then what I maybe want to what I maybe want to throw in, and maybe this pivots to what I want to use as my lens for our second turn here, is I think if that's the case, following that through, you mentioned the possibility of this at the very top of, as soon as we introduced the power as a character, like, this has to be the moment that, like, it is known that, like, this has to be the moment that it is known that, like, he is, that the power is gone and is not coming back.
Yes.
Like, this is a, like, I think, like, this magical crisis, like, escalates in a way that, like, makes it abundantly clear that, like, the power's not missing, but gone. And, like, that is a thing that has to be dealt with on a citywide level. Yeah. And I think there's a crisis that settles in with that. I was going back and forth about what I wanted my lens to be, because I am deeply fascinated by looking at the lives of these competing coffee shop owners. But I think, like, I've got to see how our Justice League Avengers analog pastiche, I need to see, like, what their structure and, like, what their shape looks like in the wake of the discovery that the most powerful figure in Cape Town is now completely missing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So what, there's a list of questions here about, like, making an institution. And I think I can throw you some of these questions, like, how deep does our league go? You mentioned having a press secretary. Is there a bureaucratic body? Is it more of there's, like, 7 of us and one of us just has to step in front of a podium? Like, what is the size, and I guess I would say, like, officiality of, or legitimacy of this or bureaucracy of this Justice League as an organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, either way makes sense. I think I'm leaning towards, what if there are just 7 and then they do, like a worker-owned co-op. They're like, we each have to take turns, having a 3-month stint as the press secretary or the treasurer, or, everyone has a role to play and they learn how to do it all. They're like, look, we have powers. We can, some of us can run real fast. Some of us can lift up a building. But we all need to know like the basic, like it's important for everyone in our society to vote, and we all do jury duty. So it's kind of like that. It's just a randomly distributed. So that's what I would say makes sense. And, maybe they have like some other, like folks who help, maybe receptionists, an April O'Neil, or what have you. But I think mostly it's just them. It's not like a huge, like, what is it in The Boys, the Vought Corporation, more down to earth, crunchy granola Portland. Like, look, we're the heroes, but we're also, when the toilet stopped up, one of us plunges it.
Here. Heroes local, sure.
Yeah.
They've got their union hall. They've got their spot that they hang out in. If you told me that was a thing in Portland right now, I would not disbelieve you for a second.
Heroes local, or Hilo. Yeah.
Hilo is good. Hilo's, yeah. Great. We've kind of already talked about like I think what is important about this is I like that it is like a small group. I like that it is just like it kind of almost started putting a little bit of a different, I think, edge on it. Like there's a sense of cooperation and also a sense of the cynical way to say it is mutually assured destruction, and like the positive utopian way to say it is like mutual accountability. Of the people that are let into Hilo are the folks that are, I'm thinking of, I've been reading Kieran Gillen's Power Fantasy.
Yeah.
With the idea of there are 6 people with superpowers, and if 2 of them were to fight, like, that's it. It's over. And I think, like, it's the idea of, like, Hilo is a space for the people that are operating at a scale where, like, the city could be leveled. So there is also a mutual accountability of you can't be operating alone at this scale because you are a random person that has a nuclear bomb in their pocket. You need 6 other people to kind of be around you, to be like an emotional support, to be the person to talk you down from getting heated and going after somebody with your crazy laser vision. Like,
yeah, which they call crazy lazy. Yeah.
Crazy lazy. Yep.
Yeah.
And so there's that. I think that's the energy of like what is important about this institution. And so, like, I guess I'll throw this to you. What moments do you want to see? What details do you want to add? What characters, like, do you want present here? Like, what's the vibe? What else do you want to see as part of Hilo and part of this moment when they're dealing with the power disappearing?
Yeah. First, they're asking the question, like, who watches the Watchmen? I'm like, we watch each other. And, yeah, I guess let's say that the remaining 6 or however many there are, are doing their best to come together. But let's say maybe it's like an Infinity Gems kind of thing where like one shouldn't be missing, one can't be missing. And that's, of course, what leads to this thing. They're like, this has never happened before. This isn't supposed to happen. So, they're both, the authorities. They're the ones in charge. They're the ones who help and save the day. And yet, that's why the press secretary is like, nothing to, don't worry about it. We've got it under control. We're handling it. Like, how are you doing that exactly? Great question. We got to handle it. So we don't have time to talk about how we're handling it right now. So yeah, I feel like it's, this is the thing that I love in like shows like Parks and Rec or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where every character is so, strongly defined. And, like Captain Holt, played by Andre Braugher, is like, almost robotic, in his logic. But then every once in a while, there's just this one, he has this really unreasonable, like fiery emotional reaction to his nemesis. And we're like, oh, wow, he's like, he's a robot, but he's a human being because of this. It makes it more endearing and realistic in a way. And so these are similarly these heroes, whose maybe all of their powers are magically, inspired or based in that. And, the original podcast listeners. And they are now, they're used to being able to handle everything. And now there's this one thing, this one one thread that is being pulled and is tearing open reality. And so they are, certainly outwardly confident, but inwardly heading, more. And the more the tear grows, the more panic they head towards.
I like that a lot. I think that's great. I think the thing I want to throw in, I'm thinking about I think an immediate reaction to this, right? Like an immediate, you had mentioned maybe there are others, and the phrase that popped into my head was like a Hilo membership drive, and I think I want to take an inversion of that, because I think this is purely Jeff having been deeply informed by watching 20 years of the cartoon The Venture Brothers of I need an evil organization to counterbalance the good organization that is equally bureaucratic. And so there is a Vilo membership drive, which of course is Villains local. And they are doing an active membership drive I think it is tying into the idea of a world that is focused on rehabilitation, and also pulling on the idea that the thing that I love about the Flash Rogues in the comics is this is a membership drive, both in the sense of there is an immediate citywide panic when the power's absence escalates to the next level. And if I am a guy with a heat ray, and I just found out that the most powerful hero in the city is absent, maybe I'm going to find a time to use that heat ray. And I think Vilo, as an organization that is both connecting villains to do crimes together, but also working to support, provide material support to keep villains from going too far, right? They've got their code of ethics. I adore so much that the Flash Rogues have a code of ethics that's if you cross these, I'm gonna freeze ray you and you're gonna die. I don't know what else to tell you. And I think there's a similar kind of energy of we're doing a membership drive because I'm seeing a lot of people start to reach for their freeze rays, and you should be a member of our organization so that we can be certain that the crimes that you're committing are containable and are relatively victimless. Because if they get past that point, Hilo starts knocking, and that becomes a way bigger problem for all of us.
Oh, yeah. I like that a lot. And maybe even on top of that, there could be an element of front-facing wise, Villains local Vilo is saying our name is ironic, the way that I feel that's been a storyline in when the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, when it first came out, we're all right, totally on the nose. There's the good guys, there's the villains. And then eventually more nuanced storytelling is oh yeah, we called ourselves that kind of as a joke because of the way that we're perceived, but we don't believe that we're evil, only in the context of, this unfair, imbalanced, prejudiced society. So you call us the villain, we'll take on that role. So in this world, Vilo is, on outwardly, they're we're about making things better. We're involved in the rehabilitation. Maybe they do have, actual official organizations, organizational structures there to help. But beneath that, they're but also we're, stealing some stuff, and don't worry about it.
What that says, pulling on our inspiration points, that the idea of an organization that is there to say hey, Mr. Freeze, we can help you resuscitate your wife. That's not a problem. If you wanted to then continue to freeze things and steal stuff, cool. But it seems like you're mainly doing this because you've got some trauma. We can fix that. We can work with you to support you on that and get you the medical funds to research a cure for that. If that's why you're doing this, we don't want you to put yourself and your conscience and your heart at risk. if you're gonna be doing crimes, we want you to be doing it because crimes are fun and because you're doing it for a love of the game.
Yeah, definitely.
That hits. Great. What else? Is there anything else that you want to see, like around Hilo, around Vilo, around these characters reacting to Power's sort of disappearance?
Yeah, I guess the one thing that springs to mind is like while the heroes are, kind of putting off the press because they don't know what's going on. Perhaps from the other front, from Vilo, they're like, well, there's like kind of a vacuum of information, of power. So perhaps they will, step in. They're like, well, we've got answers for you. We've got, we've got everything actually under control. So, stop listening to them. And it becomes kind of, like a disinformation campaign where, they're like, the heroes are clearly worried about this thing, but don't even worry about it. Like, just, join us and that'll be the solution.
That's great. I really like that. That's wonderful. I'm trying to think. Do I have an event? Do you have an event? Is there a capstone? This is the closing beat of of this look into our world in this chapter of our story. Do we have a note that we want to end on?
Well, I have an idea for
Hit me.
The way that the story could resolve, and I don't know. I'm sure if I were writing this out, there would be a more elegant way to get there. But what if, in actuality, the statue of the Power is in fact the Power, but he is like somehow like trapped in some sort of magical external statue thing, that, perhaps some villain, that, I don't know if the villain is still alive and out there, or if it was like, a Doomsday versus Superman kind of thing where they both punch each other and kill each other at the same time. And so perhaps like the external coating of the statue is like the now inert form of whatever force he was fighting. So it, he stopped it, and now it stopped him, and it's there, and sort of like, I guess maybe sort of the Sentry like as well, where which is such an interesting. Whenever I read Sentry comics and they're like, oh yeah, there's the Sentry, and then the opposite, the Void, and so as powerful and good as the Sentry is, there's this powerful evil that the Void is, and I'm like, then how do they win? It's such a weird, if it's completely balanced, but we're like, oh well, because the heroes win. That's so okay, great, and probably there's more to it than that in those stories, but that's always the thing that I wonder. But yeah, so in this, a similar deal, like I don't want it to be as simple as like, oh, hey, look, the tear is actually shaped exactly like the statue, so we just push the statue into the tear, and it takes all of the heroes, all of the podcast listeners, Myq, Shay, others that they've joined forces with, and using both their physical strength and mental strength and magical abilities that have coalesced and conglomerated at the exact right moment. And obviously the tear is growing bigger and bigger, the statue is not getting bigger and bigger, but magic. So eventually, like, they manage to get the statue as like a key into the lock of that is the tear, and then that is the solution.
That feels great. And I think I want to like, if we're really going to 11, I think what I want to like kick in for is like it works. I think it's got to be all of this feels like it's feeding into it works, but like it works in such a way that like the power that is the Power, like is freed, and maybe like the essence of the Power, maybe his consciousness is like is liberated, and he's like he's back in a mental sense, but like physically, like the body is gone. Physically, like there is no person to embody that. And so like it feels like the natural conclusion point of the story that we've been building towards is all of this magical energy, all of this magical potential floods directly into Myq, and this ordinary guy that's been studying magic and like has been starting to take classes and starting to study and like happens to have been on site for this event, has this moment of insight of, hey, I think if we link these things together, we might be able to. Oh God, now it's all on my shoulders. Oh
yeah.
No. Oh no.
Yeah, everything that he dreamed for too much, too fast at once.
And now like that's the end of the origin arc for this character, staring at having the powers of a magical god in a city that is now flooded with supervillains that have been like actively recruiting with one another, and like kind of staring at this entire city that's all looking in his direction at this moment and going, oh, I guess I gotta figure this out.
Yeah, he's like, thank goodness we solved the life-ending potential, cosmic reality-shifting disaster. Thank goodness. Now just to deal with reality.
Great. And that's where we'll leave our story off. That's game.
Amazing. That was really fun.
That was joyful. I'm really, really beaming at this. Let me ask you this. What was your favorite moment from play?
Oh, I mean, I guess when I realized, I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite. They're all my children. Like, I guess whenever a thought, here's one of my favorite moments, I'll say, was realizing that, like, the fact that you had introduced, the statue right at the beginning, and this hero is missing, and that the idea that, and he's never coming back, but the idea that there could be a way in which that was true, and also, the good guys can win and he can come back in some shifted form that doesn't undo anything that we said, but also, it was like a yes, but, and, an and a but, that I feel like the fact that, so much of this was, bouncing off of each other. And, like, I couldn't have done it without you, wouldn't have known how, never even heard of it. But that it was like such a natural, like, ease with which, the ideas could flow back and forth. And that it was a really fun, discovery or decision that, like, at any point, I feel like there was no time at which anyone was like, no, and so that was, just a really fun collaborative environment and energy. And so just, the whole thing felt really like you said, joyful and warm. But yeah, it was fun to, I feel like this is, I am a stand-up more than I improvise sometimes, and over the course of, doing shows, I will make discoveries of connections between like different ideas I have, and like, oh, this hour-long show can end like this. Like, discovering an ending is like a really an earned ending, and an ending that feels, that has the weight of like truth or meaning within the context of the rules that have been established and built like by us. I'm like, it's such a fun, weird thing that also has like an analog to, I love the analog, the parallel between like magic and creativity. Like, we're creating this story that had never existed before about magic, which is in itself magical in the exact kind of, parallel that began when I was like, oh yeah, like studying magic is like studying comedy, is like creating. And so to have created all of that and come up with kind of, a nice parentheses to hold it all, like it, that felt really good.
I'm so glad. That's the magic of games to me. I feel like you very succinctly summed up the things that have kept me coming back to this for 10 years now. And so thank you so much for sitting down with me. This was an absolute delight. Before we wrap things up, where can people find you and your work online?
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And so, yeah, my name is Myq Kaplan, and I spell Myq weird. So if you remember how to spell it, you'll be able to find me. It's Myq. then Kaplan. And so that's my website. That's also all of my social media. That is, I have a Substack newsletter where I, every week or thereabouts, send out at least one free sort of essay about a joke that I love, or other things. I sometimes my own jokes, sometimes poems, sometimes thoughts about comedy and art and this kind of magic. And that's at myqkaplan.substack.com. And I have a bunch of comedy albums on all the streaming platforms, your Spotify's, your Apple Music's, your, massive corporations of choice. So I have a bunch of albums. I have my own podcasts. One is called Broccoli and Ice Cream. One is called The Faucet. And I have a book that I created with my friend Ramin Nazer. He made beautiful art, and I wrote jokes, and so he illustrated them, and it's called Heartbrain Art Train. Pretty much, if you put Myq Kaplan in anywhere on the internet that you want, you'll find it. But the main thing, if you only remember one thing, I thank you for that. I mean, memory is so shifting, and but I welcome you to, I encourage you to watch my new special, which is free on YouTube as we speak, called Rini. It's on my YouTube in collaboration with my producers at Blonde Medicine. So subscribe, share, but mostly enjoy. I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that you share that joy with anyone you think might enjoy that joy as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for this. This was fantastic. This was a wonderful experience. I'm so happy about it. And now I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Myq for coming on to the show. That game was... what a joy. What a wonderful, joyful conversation and experience that was. It was so cool to get to sit down and really play around in the superhero sandbox and sort of just explore all of the things that make these sorts of stories so exciting to us. It was a really wonderful game, wonderful experience. I'm extremely grateful that we got to make it happen. Be sure to check out Myq's newest special, Rini, in full on YouTube. You can find a link to that live right now. Link to that is in the show notes. And be sure to head to metagame.itch.io to pick up your own copy of Zoetrope. And of course, while you're on social media, follow Myq at Myq Kaplan. That's MyQ Kaplan. You can also find us on pretty much whichever social media you prefer, at Party of One Pod or Jeff Stormer, depending. And if you enjoy the show and you want to support it, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/partyofonepodcast. And join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. Or if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Aaron Catano Saez. We take a listener submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Rain, featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.